6 books in the month of August is what I read. I toned it down a bit, guys, and I did some annotating of books. So let's talk about the 6 books I read and how much I loved or perhaps didn't love some of these. The first book, since I already showed you, love, love, love this book. It's called Welcome to the Hyunam-dong Bookshop, and this is by Hwang Bo-ryum, and it is translated from Korean into English, and loved the audiobook too because I was doing both. It has a British accent, and so it's just, I don't know, it's just prettier. It sounds different and wonderful. The whole book is great, especially if you are in this phase of life, kind of like I am, where you're going, what is the meaning of life? What am I wanting to do with my life? How do I live in a way that it is joyful to do the work that you do, to be around the people that you're around? If you are at that place where you're going, okay, is there something else for me, or is this still the place for me? It is a fabulous book because the premise is that the female main character leaves her job, leaves her relationship, leaves what she knew, and goes to open a bookshop and finds herself there in this completely new phase of life. And you also hear the stories of all the people that come into her life and she surrounds herself with. And there's very short chapters, and each one has a little nugget of wisdom, which I absolutely love. Like, for example, this one, it's called Buttons Without Holes, but it is talking about how sometimes you need to create that button. We don't all fit into the same mold. Sometimes you just need to figure it out and pave your own way if you need to, and that is okay. So as you can see, I annotated it, and I had asked in one of my other books about the little free library of which book to annotate first and put in. This is the one that I actually did. Thank you for all that commented and told me and weighed in. I know it might not have been your choice, but this was what I ended up doing, and I absolutely loved it. Highly, highly recommend. It was a bestseller in Korea and international for a reason. Absolutely adored it. I will be thinking about this for quite some time, and I want to come back to it and all that. So I hope that people come to my little free library and annotate it for themselves as well and return it so that we can all benefit from hearing each other's understanding of things or interpretations of things, or just different parts that we took away. Because I think just depending on what you're going through and what your experience is, you read different parts, right? And I think that's the beauty of being in community, being in book club with other people. It's just how we experience all the different things and apply what we know in our lives into what we are reading. So the other one that I absolutely devoured was Wrath of Dragons. Wrath of the Dragons by Olivia Rose Darling. If you loved Fourth Wing, if you loved that female badass bad boy, he loves her so fiercely and will do anything in the world for her, that feeling, this is the book for you. You need to go read it, and the audio narrators do such a fantastic job. I went down a whole rabbit hole of looking at who these people are. Again, British accents, which is really, really fun, makes things come alive in a different way. At least it does for me. Maybe it's distracting for some people, but I love this book. I read Fear the Flames probably like a year ago. I don't remember. And it wasn't one where I was going, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to put it on my calendar as to when the next one is coming out. But I saw that it had come out. I could not put it down. I could not put it down. The way that Caden loves her and the way that people talk about him, but he knows when he has found that person that he was meant to cherish. And the way that that is depicted and the way that they come together to protect the people that they love and for the good of the world, I think there's just that very strong message of hope for the world as well, that I really, really tied into. And that is also something I absolutely loved with Fourth Wing and drew me in. It's not just the battles, but it's all the everything behind it, the message to the world, as well as the found family feelings, because we all have experiences. We all have people in our lives that are not good for us, but it is what you do after that. It is what kindness do you give to the world, even after you've gone through a lot of crappy stuff. So I loved it. If you have loved any of these like I have, let me know. If you didn't, that's okay. Let me know too. Like I said, it's all our different perspectives, and something I love, you might have hated, and something you loved, I might not have liked so much. So it's all good. It's all good. We're all here in kindness. There's a lot of stuff going on in the book world right now where people feel like they can say things because they're anonymous online and stuff. Don't be that person. That's not what we're here for. So, in kindness, you can share your opinions. Please. All right. Another one I read was an ARC. It was Julia Song is Undateable by Susan Lee. It is not yet coming out because it's not coming out until the end of October, so I'm not going to spoil it. But if you are of Asian descent or are familiar with Asian parents, you may resonate deeply with this book because this is her first adult novel. It is a romance, and the female main character is a very successful CEO of a Korean skincare beauty brand, and yet the family is just hounding her to first get married. When are you going to have kids? All these things. It is a very common thing, and it might not just be an Asian thing, but no matter how successful they are, it's this thing that keeps coming back over and over and over, right? Like they're not a success if they don't get married or if they don't have kids or if they don't something else in their personal life. And then you have this flip side of the male main character who is the sweetest, kindest, everythingist person, but he may not be seen as a success in professional life because he quits his job. He leaves his job to come take care of an ill parent. And so there's all these things that they battle with of the insecurity of their own volition, as well as what they hear from the community and their parents and society and cultural norms. So it is just an interesting thing to see that dynamic, and then to also see someone that is so good in the professional world have it so bad in being able to date and be able to relate to men and be able to interact with people in that way. And it's a funny, it made me giggle along the way, and it made me resonate as an Asian woman. I was able to meet Susan Lee now on 2 occasions in person, and it was just really fun to be able to talk to her a little bit about her other books as well as this book. I was at a LoveLitCon book club, which is where I got to sit down with her and talk about her other book, which is called Romance Rivalry, which is her YA book before this. But she writes really sweet books that come out for diversity, and there aren't super like Asian voices all the time. So if you are looking for something in that nature for yourself or for your young adults, this is a great, so highly recommend. Another one I read was You Want to Be on Top. It is a memoir by Sarah Hartshorn on the behind the scenes of America's Next Top Model. So I'm just going to say I didn't absolutely love it. Usually I like to give memoirs like 4 or 5 stars because it is their story, and everyone's story deserves to be told. Everyone's story is relevant. Everyone's story is important. So this is just a reflection that it didn't really resonate with me. It was interesting to see the behind the scenes, and then thankfully the way she depicts it, it's not like all the girls were catty at each other, but there was actually camaraderie and encouragement and care for one another, which I really liked. And it's not a surprise, right, that it's really hard being away from your family and you're not allowed to talk to people, and there's just all these restrictions when you're on a reality show and NDAs and all that stuff, and people just don't care. because they are creating a show and they want to portray you in a certain way. And so just keep those in mind if you're a reality show watcher, that a lot of it is curated. And when you see people don't get treated the best way when they are contestants, that sucks. I'm not surprised, but it shouldn't be that way. So it's just interesting to hear another perspective. The other thing that kind of bothered me was, I get the point that she is perhaps a little more plus sized than the other super thin, traditional, framed supermodel types. I didn't need to hear it over and over and over and over. I did go look her up afterwards because I had no idea. I'm not an avid Next Top Model watcher, and she was thin. She was thin. So anyway, she is more plus size now, but it's fascinating to hear what I was hearing in the book, and then to see what she looked like before versus what she looks like now and what she was being told at that time. And it just boggles my mind. So if you are interested in the behind the scenes of reality shows and specifically America's Next Top Model, go check it out. She's funny. She's interesting. She's honest. It's, yeah, worth a read. Accomplice to the Villain. So I did not realize that there were 4 coming out, at least planned to be. I read the first 2. This one was better in my book than the others. It just made me giggle throughout. It just was not as predictable, at least in my opinion. Maybe others would think otherwise, but you see the characters develop a lot more. There was predictable parts where you're, kind of guessing, oh, who done it? And yes, you can guess some of those, but the banter is, I love it. I love it. Evie and the villain are just so opposites. And yes, there's miscommunication, and usually miscommunication kind of bothers me because it's done so much, and you're like, come on already. But you know why. You see it. He's trying to hold her back, because he has things that he doesn't want to subject her to. And it's just really cute. It's just really cute. In the way that they are. And I think I admire Evie for certain ways because she is able to be just filter free in ways that I never would be. And so I admire that, even though there is absolutely a happy median. But then you also see Rebecca come out of her shell, and there's different people that you see and you come to appreciate. But then in this book, you come to really love them because more of the peels, more of the layers are peeled. So highly recommend that one. Apparently I was in a big romantasy kick this time. And then another one, this was also an arc, was Jill Jarvis's He Falls First. And this is a first book for me of Jill's. And I was giggling throughout. There is a part with, I don't think this is a spoiler, but the female main character has a little brother who is, I think he was in middle school maybe. So not super young, not super old yet. But there's a phrase, he catches her and he says, oh, don't be a fool, wrap your tool, because that is always what she has said to them when she had to have one of those birds and the bees talks and things. So it comes to bite her in the butt. But things like that, where it's just really cute phrases and you see how much they care for their family and the love that they share. And it's just really cute. The only thing, I don't know if it's the only thing, the beef that I had at the very end, she says, oh, I don't know if I should say this, but anyway, I'm not going to say it because there's something at the end where I'm like, that is not true. That is not true. You know what? I don't think this is a spoiler because it's going to be a happily ever after. And they say something about like, oh, I know that he'll never let me down. Nobody is ever going to never let you down. So that just really bothered me for some reason. That's just setting a bar that is unachievable, and nobody is perfect. So I have a lot more I could say about that, but I'm going to leave it. It felt like Ryder, the male main character, was a little too perfect. There wasn't this flawed person, granted, not perfect, but there wasn't this real growth arc that I really come to love. So it just felt like she took much more of a changing throughout the story and growing throughout the story, whereas he did not. So I wish I had seen more from him. I also felt like it was quite predictable and that there wasn't as much conflict as I would have expected, I guess. I was expecting there to be some sort of really big blow up at the end or some sort of something like the ex comes back or I don't know, it's one of the other characters, but nothing really happened. It just kind of resolved. So I guess that those are the only like kind of nitpicky beefs that I had. I will absolutely read more of her books. This is one of the Colburn Brothers series, so there are more coming out in the future, and I will absolutely read it. If you loved like the Knock 'em Out series by Lucy Score, you are going to love it because it's like a small town romance. He falls first, obviously, name of the book, those kinds of tropes. So, yes, I still recommend it. I just had a big beef with how, like, just phrasing of certain things. So, that was that. If you had books that you absolutely loved in August, I already have a super, super, super long TBR, but I always take recommendations and I always love talking about books. So drop them in the comments. And if you want more, head here. See you in the